This is the first section of the set of videos about how to teach guided reading for chapter books. So for this section of the videos, we'll be using the book The Spray Paint Mystery by Angela Shelf Medeiros. This book is an O reading level, so it's set for about 3rd or 4th graders, or a very advanced 2nd grader, or somewhere in that range. So the way that you would teach a chapter book for guided reading is pretty similar to the way that you would teach a regular picture book for a younger group, except you're going to be diving a little bit more into the deeper thinking, the higher order thinking of comprehension to make sure that they're able to comprehend, that they're able to recognize what aspects are going into their comprehension and things like that. So this video will go over a few of those examples. One way to start your students' guided reading is to start by prompting them about what's going to happen in the book, or what the book is going to be about, without giving anything away, obviously. So for example, with this book, The Spray Paint Mystery, you'd say something to the extent of, this is a book about a boy named Cameron who's just starting 3rd grade, and he's not really enjoying it at first. And to sort of let them get started with just the very beginning of the book to just sort of get a taste for it. Another strategy for starting off guided reading is to help the kids to start making predictions right off the bat. There's a couple of comprehension teaching strategies where you actually just give your kids a list of words and let them make total blind guesses about what the book's or the story or whatever you're using is going to be about. That's not exactly a guided reading strategy, but with that same idea to let them just take the cover of the book and maybe the table of contents and then to just take a guess at what they think is going to happen. And that will get them a little bit more excited about what they actually think is going to happen. They'll be excited to read to find out if they were right. And as they read, they'll be able to say, oh, I knew this was going to happen, and it gets them a little more excited about the book. Another way to start your students off in guided reading is to explain the genre to them. A lot of times that will get students to be able to understand and have a better grasp about what they're about to read, and also with some students it will get them more excited about the book. So for example, for this book you could say, this is a realistic fiction book. It could really happen in real life. It's also a mystery, so you're able to make predictions as you go and to guess what's going to happen, and it'll be an exciting ending. And introducing the genre of the book, whatever it is, a lot of times will help students to be able to comprehend better because they'll know what to expect, and also to be able to feel more excited about the book. Especially farther into the book, as the students have spent a couple days already working on and reading through different parts of the book, to start off guided reading by saying, let's summarize what's happened so far. Let's make sure that we're up to date on what's happening. And this is something that more than one student can have a part in, actually, because one student will say one thing and say, well, I remember that this and this and this happened. And then you'll say, great, what else do we remember that happened? And another student will add in, and another will add in. And ideally, most of the students would be able to contribute to that conversation as they remember what they've talked about in the past and what the book has been about, and remember their favorite parts and different things like that. And that will get their brains ready to dive into the next section that you're going to talk about that day. Then once you've set up that beginning part of your guided reading, you're going to set a purpose. Just like if you watched the set of picture book videos about guided reading, it's the same thing. You're going to leave your students with some sort of purpose to go into so that as they read, they know what they're looking for and what you're going to ask about later. So your purpose could be anything. It could go 100 different ways. You could ask them to pay attention to the point of view and how the point of view affects the way that the story goes. You could ask them to predict what you think the main character is going to do with the information that he got, or predict who the culprit is going to be, for example, in our mystery book. You could tell them to pay attention to the imagery that's used in a certain section. If you're aware that a particularly descriptive section is coming up, you could talk about that. You could also talk about, or have them pay attention to a decision that the character makes and have them decide if that's something that they would have done the same or differently, and be ready to discuss that at the end. Whatever it is, just make sure that you leave them with some sort of a purpose so that as they read, they have something to think about. That will help them to be better readers because they'll be able to think on multiple levels as they're reading, and then be prepared to discuss afterwards to show the depth of their understanding of the story. So at that point, you have introduced your book in some way, and you've left them with a purpose, and now you're ready to turn to let each of them read. And that's what we'll get to in the next video.